Salve, children, it is I, your Magister, along with my chicken. And we're going to talk to you very briefly, and I do mean very little brief thing, about myth and worldview. So this will be the first video. The second video is going to deal with a little bit more specific about gods and goddesses. This is going to give you an idea of some of the difficulties here. So let's flip down here for a second, okay? And specifically, I'm going to talk about this is the Mediterranean Sea right here, this huge, gigantic thing. Now, here's Italy, okay? And Rome is somewhere like right around there. And if we go over here, so let's look at just very briefly. Italy, Greece, very close to each other. One reason why the similarities exist between Greek and Roman gods, and they were so easy to adapt. Egypt, even though far away, is still on the Mediterranean. In many respects, will share a lot of the same climatological and geographic features that Italy does. Egyptian gods were not that difficult to adapt into the Roman pantheon, and in large measure because Egypt, by the time that we're looking at here, so this is the late 2nd century, so we're talking, almost 200 AD, let's say. By this point in time, Egypt had been conquered and reconquered and reconquered and reconquered for over 1,000 years, and it had become very cosmopolitan, very much a part of the rest of the world. This is Scandinavia, where the Vikings and the Germanic tribes are. Germania, Scandinavia. Notice the difference. Mediterranean, much farther north. This distance and the geographic differences account a lot for the difficulties in the Romans fitting the Germanic gods and goddesses into their own pantheon. And so much so that there's a very distinct difference between the religions. Egypt's gods and goddesses changed forms constantly, and depending on who was in charge, their importance varied from dynasty to dynasty. There is some degree of change even within the Germanic gods, which we'll talk about specifically when I actually have a video on them. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, look at the difference here. Rome is a very temperate climate. You have food growing 10 months out of the year maybe. Up here, you're eating jellied lutefisk, and you're not really growing much of anything. If you're lucky, there's grass growing on your house, and goats are sitting on top of it eating. The Romans relied on the sea for trade. So did the Germanic peoples and the Scandinavian and the Vikings. The word Viking actually comes from an old Germanic word Vikinger, which means pirate or adventurer. But this area and this climate is so harsh that what you relied on is much different. A lot more trading down here, a lot more raiding from here to get what you need to trade with others, and then come back and live the long, cold, dark winter months. Now, let's look at this real quick because I think this is very telling. This is the Ptolemaic map of the universe according to the Romans around the same time period, 200s or 300s, 2nd, 3rd century AD. In the center of the world, or the universe, you have the world. There's us. It's circular, because the Romans knew the world was a globe. Then going out from there, you have Mercury, Venus, Mars, the Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn. This is what's called the lumosphere. So this is what they thought, that it was sort of like a giant ball and a globe. This is the Asgardian, or the Viking worldview. In the center of the universe is a giant tree called Yggdrasil. Here's Asgard in its various parts. Here's Midgard, the earth, which is round, but it's a disc, it's flat. And the worlds Vanaheim, Jotunheim, Muspelheim, Niflheim, Svartalfheim, Nidwallir, and Alfheim come off of the tree trunks and off of the roots. Around Midgard is a giant snake that holds the oceans into place. And running up and down the tree is a squirrel, because at the top of the tree is an eagle, at the bottom of the tree is this dragon named Nidhogg. And the squirrel runs up and down and trash talks between the eagle and the dragon. And so here's the world of men. It's flat, world of men round. The 9 worlds branch off in other dimensional areas off of this gigantic tree. No tree, only discernible places are the planets that they already knew about. So even the universe is different. And in the end, too, something to keep in mind, for the Vikings, the universe would end. Everything would completely die. Everything would just be destroyed in this huge conflagration. The Romans did not have that view. So we'll pick up with that a little bit more specifically when we talk about religion, like the gods and goddesses. But this is just some basic differences, so I'll go over that again. Okay, thanks a lot, guys, and peace and love.